Ciambale are a ring-shaped bread similar to a bagel or a pretzel, which are both boiled and baked. Gillian Riley asserts in the Oxford Companion to Italian Food that there are two different categories of ring-shaped breads. Those meant to keep, long-lasting, hard as rocks, used by soldiers and mariners as subsistence food on long journeys, needing to be softened in wine, water, or oil. Then there are the short-lived, sometimes luxury products, often made with eggs, some kind of shortening, and sugar. Queen Anne's New World of Words, or Dictionary of the Italian and English Tongues by John Florio, 1611, states that ciambali were simnels, buns, or cake. The Oxford English Dictionary lists simnel as a kind of bread or bun made of fine flour and prepared by boiling, sometimes with subsequent baking. Costanzo Felici, who wrote in 1560s Italy, said, "There are also a twice-cooked bread, circular or ring or other shaped, made with a fairly hard dough with salt, anise or fennel seeds, first cooked in boiling water and then in the oven." He goes on to say, "There are many varieties that we might call reinforced breads, with a wide range of additions to the flour or dough according to the changing tastes of mankind. Some of these are light and very spongy, some covered in powdered sugar, others without sugar, some smoother, some harder, some low and flattened, large or small in shape. There are others called zuccherini, made with eggs and sugar." At the height of the Roman Empire, Roman soldiers were known to carry these ring-shaped breads with them. There is visual evidence that these breads existed in Roman times from a mural of a baker's shop in Pompeii. According to The Bagel, A Surprising History of a Modest Bread by Maria Bolinska, by the 16th century, ring-shaped wheat bread was eaten all over Italy. But it is important to understand that the ring-shaped breads were not exclusive to Italy. By the 16th century, one could find abwarzanek in Poland, Gerda in China, ciambale in southern Italy, and the pretzel in Germany. According to pretzel historian Irene Krauss, the pretzel was originally a ring-shaped bread made in monasteries for feast days. The shape of a pretzel changed from a ring to a three-holed oblong, which was modeled after the outline of the monk's arms in prayer. I have chosen to recreate 7 ciambale, 6 from the opera of Bartolomeo Scappi, 1570, and 1 from Cristoforo Messabugo's treatise Libro Nuovo Opera, written in 1549. Any 16th century discussion of bread or dough must always start with the discourse on flour. In his ciambale recipe, Scappi uses the term fior farina, and Terence Scully translates this as fine flour. On page 217, Scappi mentions hard Regno white wheat. Scully says in the footnotes that Scappi is referring to Naples and Sicily's historical importance in making and shipping pasta and hard wheat. White wheat is another name for naked wheats or Triticum turgidum, hard wheats, of which durum wheat is a subspecies. John Gerard quotes in his Herbal that "wheat, saith Galen, is very much used of men, and with greatest profit. Those wheats do nourish most, which be hard, and have their whole substance so closely compact, as they can scarcely be bit asunder. For such do nourish very much, and the contrary but little." The Latin root word of semolina is semilla, and according to the OED, semilla means fine flour. The libra was the Roman unit from which the English pound is descended. The symbol LB for the pound comes from this unit. The Roman libra contained only 12 uncii, or ounces, and was about 0.722 English pounds. The uncii, translated from Latin, means 1/12 and is approximately the weight of 20 mustard seeds. The modern ounce is virtually unchanged. Mix semolina and sugar on your work surface. Make a well. Add egg and mix it in with your hands. It will seem dry, but continue mixing. Eventually it will come together to form a shaggy dough. When it sticks together, start kneading. Scappi tells us to continue kneading for an hour. If the dough becomes sticky, Scappy says, do not add more flour, but to use almond oil or Greek wine. Do not shorten the kneading time. If you knead for only a short amount of time, the final product will suffer for it. Your cimboletti will be spongy and sticky and not firm and crisp as they should be. Cut off a small section of dough and start rolling it into a rope. Roll the rope out thinner and thinner until you reach 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch in diameter. Wrap it around 2 or 3 fingers and then just gently roll it together to seal the edges and make a continuous ring. Continue making your cimboletti until all the dough has been used up. While you're doing this, start your water boiling in a large wide-mouthed pot. When all of your cimboletti are formed, add them one by one to boiling water, being careful not to place them on top of each other because they will stick. In 2 to 3 minutes, they will float to the surface. Let them float for 30 seconds to a minute and scoop them out with a slotted spoon. Place them on a rack or dishcloth to cool and dry completely. Place on a baking sheet and bake at 350 degrees for 15 minutes. Take them out. Baste your cimboletti with an egg wash and place back in the oven for another 5 minutes. The cimboletti here are small, bite-sized, and cracker-like. Scappy lists this recipe in his book 6, which is Dishes for the Sick. They have a nice, almost vanilla-like flavor and a crisp bite. Scappy's ciamboloni and Messabugo's brazzatelli are essentially the same, with the exception that the ciamboloni has salt and no butter, and the brazzatelli has butter and no salt. To compare Scappy and Messabugo's ciambole, first I had to find a translation of Cristoforo Messabugo's Libro Nuovo online. But there are no English translations of this text. I had to download the original Italian and translate it myself. Both ciamboloni and brazzatelli are both formed, boiled, cooled, dried, and baked in a similar way and fashion as the ciamboletti, but with each one being larger. Scappy and Messabugo specify 4 ounces of dough for each. The final product is very much like a bagel. In his filled ciambole, Scappy specifies to use warm milk in this enriched dough. I found that this denatures the protein, resulting in a tender dough. The addition of butter makes a soft, pliable dough with similar properties to phyllo. When I translated this recipe from the original Italian, I realized that Terence Scully had left 3 ingredients out of his translation: 6 ounces of raisins well cleaned, 1 ounce of cinnamon, and 4 ounces of sugar. I decided that I wanted to do both of these translations. The first version is Terence Scully's translation, and the second uses my translation. To make the filling, melt the butter with the saffron in it. While that's happening, take your mascarpone cheese and your Parmesan cheese, mix them together in a bowl. Add in your eggs and stir until they're well incorporated. Add in the butter and stir together and watch as the butter molecules adhere to the fat molecules in the cheese and become this stiff paste. I have the recipe and added the raisins, sugar, and cinnamon and mix them well to incorporate them. Scappy tells us to divide the dough into 2-ounce lumps and to roll it thinly as for that of a torte. Once you have rolled your 2-ounce lump of dough into a circle approximately 4 to 6 inches in diameter, Scappy directs us to lay 2 ounces of filling to one side of the dough, butter the edges, and then roll it up 1.5 times. If you roll it more than that, the outside will be beautifully golden while the inside is still raw. Once it is rolled into a log, Butter the ends and bring them together, overlapping them to form a ring or ciambale. Baste them with butter and bake at 350 degrees for 30 to 40 minutes. The filling, as Scully translated it, tastes like a cheese Danish and are delicious. The filling as Scapi intended is quintessentially a Renaissance flavor and is equally delicious. The dough for chicken-filled ciambali is exactly the same as the other two of Scapi's 3 stuffed ciambales. The filling is made with chicken, almonds, masticcioli, mascarpone, egg yolks, and cinnamon. Masticcioli is a kind of biscotti leavened with eggs that Scapi frequently uses in place of breadcrumbs. The technique is the same for all 3 of Scapi's filled ciambali as well. Roll out a 2-ounce lump of dough into a circle 4 to 6 inches in diameter. Place 2 ounces of filling on one side. Butter the edges and roll it up 1.5 times. Bring the ends together, butter them, and overlap them, pressing to secure them. Baste with butter and bake in a 350-degree oven for 30 to 40 minutes. To make apple ciambale, peel, core, and chop your apple finely. Sauté in a lot of butter. Add your cinnamon and sauté that with the apple until it's well incorporated and the apples are done. Transfer the apples to a mixing bowl and add your masticcioli. Grind the sugar in a mortar until it's a little bit fine. Add that to the apple mixture. Add in your eggs and mascarpone cheese and mix thoroughly until it's well incorporated and a homogeneous mixture. Cook and assemble your ciambali as you did for the chicken and the cheese ciambales. Zuccherini are from Scapi's Book 6, containing recipes for the sick. It is made from beaten egg whites, sugar, and a little rose water. Scapi gives no clues how these should look, only to say, shape them like a ciambale. I experimented with using a spoon, but they were misshapen and unpleasing. Took a look at Scapi again and came across a recipe that used a syringe to pipe loose batter into hot oil. I believe it entirely plausible that Scapi used a syringe or something similar to shape his zuccherini. I had a lot of fun as well as learned a lot while making the ciambale. I discovered through trial and error that semolina flour makes a much better finished product, both in taste and texture. While a mixture of soft and hard wheats does create a palatable ciambale, it produces bread that has a floury taste and is much denser. Scapi never says what wheat he used for flour, but we do know he did have access to hard white wheat and durum. I realize that Scapi gives us specific instructions for good reason. When making any of the stuffed ciambale, Scapi tells us to roll the pastry up only 1.5 times. He also says to knead for an hour while making the ciambaletti. Not listening to Scapi's instructions results in a less than successful attempt at ciambale. Scapi has recipes for a non-yeasted bread-like treat that was boiled and then baked. Some were filled with sweetened fruit and sometimes with savory fillings like chicken or cheese and rolled. Some were a biscuit-type texture that were again boiled and baked. Some were baked only and sprinkled with sugar, and some were even made from just egg and sugar. It seems that ciambale is not a particular dish or recipe, but more describes the finished shape, a ring. Whether ciambale was made as a food that would keep and last for long journeys, or as a more elaborate but immediate luxury food, ciambale in Scapi's period were as diverse as his imagination.